Hey, you listen to Wrestling Roundup, FreeFM 89.0, episode 136. This is Grady Hooker, and live on Skype we got Josh.
Hey.
So we're going to recap Hell in a Cell and then the Raw straight after. But Hell in a Cell opened up on the pre-show with the six-man tag team match. Ziggler, Cesaro, and Neville took on what's looking to be a formidable trio.
Yeah, I think they're tapping into WWE 12.
Yep. Just putting all of the Europeans together.
Yeah. Into the stable. Bring up William Regal from NXT and make him their manager.
Maybe they'll tap into, I think it was WWE 13, where they gave Sheamus like every single belt there was.
That was WWE 12.
Damn it. That was a horrible game storyline.
Yep.
That
was part of the WrestleMania mode.
Oh, yeah. But with
from one character to the next, to the next, to the next, to finally create an NXT character.
Even though those three lost, they at least stuck together on Raw, so I'm not sure if we're actually like seeing this trio stick around or if it's just for a couple of matches. They certainly seem to be getting referenced as a team. Which wouldn't necessarily...
Here's an outside-the-box idea.
Okay, I've opened up the box.
Add two more people to the team. Neville and Cesaro. Turn them both. Just give them like they're tired of trying to work for the fans and getting nowhere. Then put them in the tag team division and have them win the tag team titles.
That is definitely outside of the box. On this past Raw, it seemed as though Cesaro, like, his match with Owens was best match. Great match. And it looked like he might have won it, so it looked like Cesaro might not be going down, but we've had many of these hopes before, and that he might stick up in the upper mid-card. But, you know, it's Cesaro, so he'll flip-flop everywhere. But it is interesting to explore that facet that we haven't done. I think Neville, since he's come up from NXT, has been a face the entire time.
Yes.
Yeah. I think we got to see, I wouldn't call it full-blown heel, but at least like a little taste of heel down in NXT. So it wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing to refresh those two with a flip. And anything that's making a credible stable now, especially when you've got the Wyatts floating around, you do sort of need an opposite, though they'd all be bad guys, which would be kind of bad for the rest of the roster if there's 9 guys going around destroying everybody. The first idea I had, or when I saw these three were sticking around, is that Zeb Coulter seems to be very one world in his new philosophy. Might take a Bulgarian, an Irishman, a British person, and a Mexican. That sounds like the start of a bad joke about them walking into a bar.
Yeah. Let's add a Canadian, too. Assuming that we ever get Tyson Kidd back.
But I guess I did sort of spoil it if you haven't seen it already, but Alberto Del Rio and Zeb Coulter are back.
I know. Add Kevin Owens. He's a Canadian.
Oh, there we go. Kevin Owens. Yep. Done. Case closed. There's our 5-man. Alberto Del Rio. I've heard big money to get him to come back.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
It definitely seemed pretty abrupt when he got let go. And I think he was probably one of the names that was least discussed in terms of the internet heading into this pay-per-view. And there were a lot of names thrown about.
I wasn't expecting it.
Yeah.
I figured if they'd return anybody, it would be somebody along the lines of Jericho or somebody like that. I never saw ADR coming.
Nah. And that's what made it, I think, so much better that nobody really did. And probably half of the reason nobody did is I believe he's still the AAA champion with some dates left to go over there.
Yeah, from what I've heard, that's the case. He's officially their champion.
So that probably definitely amounted to not expecting him. You wouldn't expect the champion of another promotion to come on over to WWE. But not unheard of. And I've also heard that he's got to finish out those dates. So he is going to have to go back and wrestle and drop the title at some point. I imagine it's not too cutthroat and there's some like deal that as long they can finish off their dates as long as they don't mention that he's the United States champion, that sort of stuff. But we all knew that Cena was going to, thanks to the internet, take time off. So it was whoever was going to face him was going to beat him.
Yeah. It wouldn't be the first time a WWE championship appeared on outside companies' programming.
True.
Back when, in 2002, I believe it was, when Eddie Guerrero was the Intercontinental Champion, he appeared for a Ring of Honor show with the WWE Intercontinental Championship.
Was there a whole bunch of fallback for that?
I don't know.
Interesting. I imagine in nowadays environment where it's pseudo-competitive, they wouldn't be too happy with featuring it. That's just a guess. I don't know what they're thinking. Well, we'll go into our classic theme before we get to the rest of the card. It is No Mercy 2002, and Josh, why'd you pick this theme?
Well, it's got a connection with this year's Hell in a Cell show, because the main event was Brock Lesnar versus The Undertaker in a Hell in a Cell match.
And who won that year?
Brock Lesnar.
And here it is. And you're back with the Wrestling Roundup, FreeFM 89.0, Grady and Josh. So where we left off on Hell in a Cell, the longest match on the card, 23 minutes. Roman Reigns, Bray Wyatt in a cell.
It was a fantastic match.
Mm-hmm.
Two really went at it.
Definitely agree. I think this year's Hell in a Cell matches were both great. And I'm surprised. Normally the gimmick matches on the pay-per-view don't necessarily hold up, but these two definitely did.
Yeah, they certainly did. I thought it was funny that Bray Wyatt stole Roman Reigns' cousin's move to put him through a table.
Yeah.
Because you can't tell me that was not a rock bottom.
Yeah, it was a rock bottom. There was a lot of table breaking in that match. I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, I commented while I was watching the show that they stole the Dudley's tables.
Fair enough. We'll get to see more of those in December at the TLC pay-per-view. But the match was absolutely awesome. You can argue until the crows come home about the outcome and whether it was the right outcome. But leading into what happened on Raw, it was probably the right outcome. Because on Raw, they had the 8 winners, not including the main event winner, fight it out in singles matches and then a fatal 4-way to determine the number one contender to Seth's title.
That was definitely the right decision to do that too, because they haven't done a legitimate number one contender match since, technically, if you want to be technical about it, Fastlane with Bryan and Reigns.
Yeah. It was great for a little like refresher. I don't know what it did to the ratings or anything, but I felt that Raw was actually quite a good Raw, comparing it to some of the past ones. And I think most of that was up to the matches we got. We got a lot of matches that we probably wouldn't normally see, and a couple of fresh faces rotating through there. And the Fatal 4-Way at the end of the night was a great match as well. So that all happened, and now we've got Roman Reigns as our number one contender.
And that was the right decision.
Yeah. Maybe. Out of the Fatal 4-Way, it was the right decision.
Really, out of the final 8.
Nope.
Out of the old 8. There was really only Roman Reigns, really, that could have won the match.
Yeah.
Series of matches.
But I'll continue to just live in a fantasy world where Cesaro won. But yeah, Roman Reigns made the most sense. Everybody else was either busy with Breeze or a title at the moment, or was down in the mid-card and wouldn't really stand a threat to Seth Rollins.
With Cena gone and Orton gone, now is the time, if you're going to try to make Roman the guy, this is the time you have to do it.
Yep.
Because there's no Bryan to stop his momentum, and there's no Cena, so all Cena's fans have to support somebody, and Reigns basically has the same demographic for his fans.
To be honest, that Raw, they were quite behind Roman.
Yeah, he got some huge pops last night.
I'd say that's the crowd reaction you want every week for Roman. And I don't know if it's everybody starting to cool down on him and accept him to his position, or if that was just one crowd. But by God, I hope that it's just everybody cooling down.
After the last 10 months since the Royal Rumble, we have seen Roman go out there week in, week out, and just do exactly what he has to do, what he's been told to do, and actually put on good matches and do what his detractors have told him, has said he couldn't do when he wasn't, quote unquote, ready for the main event of WrestleMania.
Mm-hmm. I'm hoping
and they've actually built him a pretty good redemption story with the whole Bray Wyatt stuff.
Yeah. Will he get the title, though, is a different question.
I don't think he will at Survivor Series, but I don't think it'll be much longer before he actually does get it.
Yeah. I'll agree on that comment.
I can see him winning it at the Royal Rumble.
Okay. We'll move on to the New Day, the Dudley Boys, WWE Tag Team Championships. New Day retained with a broken trombone.
Well, to be honest, I'm actually okay with this. I don't really think it was would have been the right move to put the titles on the Dudleys.
Yeah, fair enough. The one thing I fear about this is that they are going to stretch the feud out till December for TLC. They may give them the titles then, who knows, but it seems as though the Dudleys are going to have a match against somebody at TLC, and that this match, if they stick with just this again, is going to get very repetitive or very boring before we get to TLC. Because this was only like an 8-minute match.
But at least it wasn't the same thing with them getting disqualified.
Yeah. Even the WWE Divas Championship match was longer than this. Charlotte versus Nikki Bella.
It is what it is.
I was hearing a lot of praise for Nikki Bella after that match.
Nikki did put in a good match. A really good match with Charlotte. much to the chagrin of her haters everywhere.
Yeah. You know, you gotta hate someone. And now, after the actions on Raw, we'll move on to our Charlotte Paige match. And Natalya can take the place of Paige in the trio team. And Paige can go be a lone wolf. Okay, so now we're going to go into our current song of the week. It is Hell in a Cell 2015's Cut the Cord by Shinedown. And you're back with the Wrestling Roundup. FreeFM 9.0, Grady and Josh. So we'll just jump a match. The Intercontinental Championship, Kevin Owens destroyed Ryback.
You know what match you jumped, though?
What match?
The WWE Championship match.
Yeah. It was a weird match ordering, to be honest. I jumped it mainly for the fact that it definitely seemed cut off. I'm not sure if anybody else had that feeling, but it seemed as though Kane went down a little early after the announce table.
I don't really think it was. I felt that the match just ended when it was supposed to. And it is what it is. I think we never. I don't think anybody actually legitimately thought Kane was going to win the championship.
No.
If Kane was going to win the match, it was going to be something screwy with like a disqualification or a count out.
Yeah. And he didn't. He just lost. And then Seth took the title, went back home, and is now taking on Roman Reigns. Much like Kevin Owens took his title home because Ryback didn't show much of a fight. But someone who did show a lot of fight, Brock Lesnar versus The Undertaker.
What a match. I was a lot more impressed than I thought I was going to be with that match.
Mm-hmm.
I would say if that was the match that they had done at WrestleMania 30, I don't think anybody would have had a problem with the streak ending.
Yep, I'd agree with that. I think this is the best match those guys have had. Not looking back at 2002, of course, out of these three. And it's definitely the one where it looked the most legitimate. I know a lot of people are either up in arms or reporting that Vince is up in arms and all of that about the blood. It did add to the match. Sometimes it can be a little over the top, but it definitely made it seem more personal. And that these guys were really fighting for the last time. It was the total climax of their feud. And
here's what's funny. It was Brock Lesnar that got hurt. Not The Undertaker, who were all scared of being hurt in this match.
Yeah. And it was a great match. I don't know what else to say about it.
Lesnar, after the match, definitely looked like he could have been concussed.
Yep. And I think it, to be honest, was early in the match. When he hit the ring post. A lot of people, even the commentators, were saying, oh, he got his hand up and didn't exactly hit it. But on the replay, he donged his head, and that's what caused the initial bleeding. Of course, there are the people on the internet saying that was him busting himself open the hard way, but that was a hard hit.
We'll have to see. I think we won't see him for a while.
I don't think...
Just because he's part-time and we don't see him often anyway.
Yeah.
But I think the biggest thing we need to take away from this match is what happened after the match.
That's what I was hoping we had time for. We've got about 4 minutes left. Bray Wyatt comes out and abducts the Undertaker. And attacks him, of course.
And then that does the same thing to Baby Brother the next night on Raw.
What's happening? Yes. I think on the house show circuit, the Brothers of Destruction had teamed up a couple of times. Seems as though we're going to head into that again. I don't know for how long, if anyone's going to team with them, if it'll be 2-on-4, 4-on-4, or what. But it seems as though for the foreseeable future there'll be a little bit of an Undertaker-Kane team up.
Yeah. Survivor Series 4-on-4 elimination match.
Yep.
Wyatt family versus The Undertaker, Kane, Brock Lesnar, and Finn Balor.
The weird thing is I've heard every single one of those names thrown about into that match. I've definitely heard the Finn name come up a lot just because he's the very same in terms of that aura behind him.
The Demon character.
And I've heard a lot about Brock Lesnar having respect for The Undertaker now. And it would be a neat match, to be honest. I think.
Now imagine you have those four on that team, and the Wyatts win the match.
Yeah.
Cleanly.
Sole Survivor or full team domination?
Yeah, Bray Wyatt be the sole survivor.
Okay. Book it. Write it down. Done. Yeah, it seems... I don't know if we'll get the Finn. I think the Finn part is probably the... I know they want him up, but he is... We've had a lot of NXT call-ups lately, and it seems as though it would be slightly a waste to bring him up just for this, unless they do some weird crossover where the Wyatts actually go down to NXT to kidnap him, and they bring the fight to Finn. Then I'd understand.
It could just be the Undertaker could be reaching out to somebody who he thinks is going to be part of the future of the company.
True.
They could work it like that and be like, we need help. As great as we are, we can't do this alone.
I don't know what they're going to do in terms of escaping captivity first, because as of now, they're currently locked up, or kept by the Wyatts. So they got to break out first. I guess if Brock Lesnar wasn't concussed, maybe that's where we could utilize Brock Lesnar. He'll just go in and break them out forcibly. Okay, so we are running out of time. On Raw, we'll just quickly mention it. Tyler Breeze is definitely still continuing his feud with Dolph Ziggler.
Yeah. That was evident by his VIP section during Ziggler's match, first match.
And I liked that little VIP segment.
Yeah, I'm glad they didn't touch his character. Yep. He's got a great feel for it.
Okay, so it's been great talking to you.
Bye-bye.
You can visit our Facebook page, facebook.com/Wrestling Roundup Radio, or Twitter page, twitter.com/Wrestling Radio, and I'll see you next week.